Hello, homeschool friends. Sabrina here from sevensistershomeschool.com. And I've got
Kim, hello.
Kim. Yay. Facebook Live buddies. That's
Mm.
us. Yeah. So, how are things going this week? Is your homeschooling going the way you want it to?
Oh, well,
Is
let's.
it going in a way that's okay, even if it's not what you wanted? Because that's okay too.
Mhm.
We're going to talk about a situation today that occurs for a surprisingly large percentage of homeschool families with high schoolers
Mhm.
that can cause things to go not exactly the way you want them to, but to go okay in a different way, maybe, than what you expected. So we're talking about sandwiches, not the kind that I love,
Peanut butter
but
jelly?
but
Fluffernutters?
yeah. Oh, fluffernutters. Yes, please. Um, oh man, I had some chicken salad the other day that was to die for. It was so good. So yeah, so those kind of sandwiches we love. But what about when you are in the sandwich generation and you're homeschooling?
Oh,
What happens when you have kids that are in high school or middle school or elementary school and you're homeschooling them and you have parents who have real need of your help? Maybe they're issues with aging or health issues, financial struggles. There could be all sorts of reasons that generations have to kind of come together. And for the homeschool parent who gets smooshed in the middle,
yeah.
it can be very challenging. So we're going to try to talk about that a little bit this afternoon and see if we can offer some encouragement and maybe some practical tips. Anything to add, Kim, before we actually leap
Now
in?
let's just dive
Let's
in.
leap. Okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So total transparency here. This did not happen to me while I was still homeschooling. My youngest has graduated. I am now doing quite a bit with my parents as they are aging. But during the years that I was homeschooling, I actually did not have to deal with this, but have a number of friends within our local homeschool umbrella school who had to do this and who had to make adjustments and who had to learn to adjust expectations and maybe reprioritize a little bit. So I am not speaking from personal experience. And if anything that we share today, you're thinking, yeah, I don't know, because we would love to hear your story. We would love to learn from your experience. So please feel free to jump in if you're here with us live, or leave a comment after the fact,
Mhm.
or send us a message.
Do
Because,
that.
yeah. How about you, Kim? Did you have to deal with
Yeah.
this while you still had kids
I think
actively schooling?
minorly at different times, maybe kind of things. Nothing like a real major where it was like I was truly caring for multi generations at the same time. And while homeschooling, and also full transparency. Having said that, I think if I can speak for both of us at least a little bit, we're both doing a little bit of that, a fair amount of that right now.
Fair amount.
So although it may not have been when we were actually doing the schooling, we get a lot of what
The
you're.
challenge.
Yes, yeah, a lot of the layers. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Layers. That's a good word.
Mhm.
Layers. Yeah, because sandwiches have layers, and that is what it feels like. So
Mhm.
the reason that um, that this is so hard is because we think of homeschooling and the sandwich generation as dealing with two layers. We think of our kids who are students and who need their homeschooling attended to and guided and shaped and facilitated and resourced. And we think of the aging or ill or uh, parents in some kind of difficulty who need our attention. But this is a three-layer sandwich. And there's also you, homeschool parent. And if there are two homeschool parents in the picture, then that's the both of you. So what I have seen, I don't want to speak for Kim, what I have seen as a really common pitfall is to fall into this two-layer
Mhm.
approach
Oh yeah.
and take care of your kids and try to meet all those needs, and take care of your parents and try to meet all those needs, and your own health and sanity and marriage and
Yeah.
job,
Mhm.
um, anything else that you do,
Yeah.
it just goes away.
Mhm.
And that's what we got to try to avoid.
Yeah.
Now, there is a charm to the idea of homeschool parent martyrdom, right? I mean, I have fallen prey to that myself. Oh, poor me. I'm
Both
trying
me.
so hard to take care of
Both
everyone.
me.
And, you know,
Yeah.
and if we're honest, we probably all have moments where that seems like a good posture to take. But aside from the fact that it doesn't help anybody, it just doesn't. It doesn't get you any of the support that you actually need. And it can actually be very damaging to relationships and to how you see yourself. But aside from all of that, there's the fact that you are modeling really dangerous life skills for your
Big
kids when you
time.
do that. So um, let's talk about what your, especially if they're in high school, what your homeschool high schoolers need to see if their grandparents
Mhm.
begin needing a lot of care from mom. If you come at it as, I want my kids to have witnessed this, I want them to have seen me living my life this way because I want to equip them for character things that they're going to need, for time management that they're going to need, for priority setting, goal setting, communication skills, all of those things, all of those super important life skills are a part of homeschooling in the sandwich generation.
And for
So,
being a loving family member.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So try to reframe it from the starting gate and don't say, how am I going to keep homeschooling the way we've been homeschooling? How am I going to keep jumping through the hoops that I've set for us while now taking on this additional burden? But instead say, what can my kids learn from this life situation that is happening in our family as a
Yeah.
whole?
Absolutely.
The reframing part can be really powerful.
Mhm. Yeah, for
Um,
you as well as them.
exactly. If you can involve your parents in a conversation about it, do. Maybe you can't. You know, maybe the problem is early onset Alzheimer's. You know, and there is not literal understanding available from your parents. But if you can, um, talk to them about it, because first of all, it's just good communication for everybody. But second, um, parents who need their children to begin to care for them often feel bad about that weight that they feel like that burden that they feel they're placing on their kids. And if
Yeah.
you can say to them, what can my kids, your grandkids, learn from this? What are the good things that we can model and teach and explain for them? It can put a positive light and a forward thinking light on what could otherwise be a kind of dark and frustrating situation.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
feel like I'm talking a lot, Kim, so
Yeah,
just
I was just going to say this
jump
is
in.
kind of really weird. Like we do sometimes just do, oh, shameless plug, but and shameless
Go for
plug.
it. I was thinking it too. Go.
Yeah, but in a completely different thing. So, and neither Sabrina nor I wrote this curriculum.
That's right.
Vicky wrote one of the curriculum that is in our bookstore, and like I'd almost just say, here, take this. But it's not mine to give. But we did the human development curriculum with our kids, and it is probably like the highlight academically for me of homeschooling with my kids. So it was our youngest layer of kids. And we also included a couple other homeschool families that we had real tight relationships with their kids. And we sat around and we had all these conversations about these kinds of things. So,
Mhm.
not to be kind of crazy and academic about it, but you could honestly even bring in the academics, do
Mhm.
a human development thing, whether it's Vicky's curriculum, which we think is fabulous, obviously, or even some other one, especially if your kids don't really quite understand. It can be challenging for
Mm.
students um, to understand, and it may seem like, oh, this is weird or this is goofy, or why do grandma or grandpa need this or that, or
Aren't they just being
why,
difficult, or yeah.
why can't they communicate the way they used to,
Mhm.
or why don't they understand, or whatever. So what a like, you know, I feel like it's sounding really cheesy here, but what a golden opportunity of life is like, because let's face it, we're all we all start out as babies, and good Lord willing, we all end up as old people someday.
Right.
Um, and what a wonderful opportunity to be able to really kind of look into that, and what does that look like, and it looks different for every person, and how can we as a family better understand where everyone in our family is, also then
Mm.
looking at their development, and saying, so it makes sense. So as a teen, that you're figuring out all your own self stuff. So it seems hard and frustrating for you to have to be unselfish at a time that's a very self-focused time, and really spend a lot of time maybe pouring into your grandparents or whoever it is.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a tough time for everybody, and recognizing that we're all in this together um, can be one of the tools that you're going to need. You're going to probably have to change what you expected to accomplish this year, especially if this addition of your parents' needs comes very unexpectedly. If
Oh
someone
yes.
suddenly has a stroke,
Hmm. Yeah.
and that is hard. We feel
Hmm.
like we're not going to make what we thought we were going to accomplish this year, and that feels like a failure, and it's not. It's not,
Not at
because it's
all.
good priority setting. It's prioritizing people and
Hmm.
relationships
Yeah.
over things, tasks, accomplishments that can be pursued at another time.
Hmm.
So, yeah, so it's okay. And you're doing the right thing if you're prioritizing people. It may also be the time in your life to recognize that you need to bring in a different type of resource than you have before. Maybe this is the time for some online classes where typically you wouldn't have wanted to pay for them, and you wouldn't have wanted to miss out on that chance to do that learning alongside your kid. But maybe this is the time for this semester or for this year to try different style learning. Maybe you want to become more involved in a hybrid school that offers in-person classes in your area, and take some of that burden for being all things homeschool to your kid during a season when your availability is going to be less.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and a
Um,
good branch off of that too is just reach out to the people around you. Make sure you're
yes.
letting people know what you're going through.
Yeah.
To the extent that's comfortable for you and your family, obviously. But we so often have this perception of, oh, I have to have it all together.
Mm,
The good
yeah.
homeschool mom, the good Christian, woman, whatever, the good wife. We think we have to have it all together, and people don't necessarily know that we need help if we don't share
Yeah.
with them that we are going through something that could benefit from help.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the lessons I wanted my students to learn, my kids, my teens to learn. Some of them had some unique learning needs, and I would share with them about how important it is when they go to college to share those needs with their teachers. It doesn't mean,
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't want any accommodations, even if you're not asking for anything, just make sure they know, and they may not treat you any differently, and you may not want them to. Um, but if you don't share with someone that you're dealing with, chronic migraines all the time,
Mm-hmm.
they don't know, when you don't turn in assignments, that you're not the kid who just doesn't care and is only there because their parents made
Yeah.
them go to college, and they, whatever. So they can't tell if we don't tell them. So
Yeah.
same kind of thing. So you can, again, as Sabrina said, you can model that by just reaching out to people and saying,
Mm-hmm.
hey, can I have some help? Can we, even if you didn't have a co-op at the beginning of the year, but somebody who's doing the same
Mm.
curriculum, hey, could we
Maybe you
do a
can jump
co-op?
in.
Is there any
Yeah.
chance, that my kid could sit with your kid once a week so that they're getting, and could you just kind of, whatever you're doing with your family, could my kid just sit there and listen?
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily have to ask, hey, can you home educate my kid for the year while I do this
Yeah.
other thing? But see where you can, even if it's somebody who says, wow, that's really rough. Can I bring you dinner?
Yeah.
Once, you
Yeah.
know, just learn to accept help.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
team, it can be a team thing if you are willing to do that.
And along those lines, make sure your kids are clear on what they're allowed to share with people.
Oh yes.
Sometimes we have
Yep.
teens who overshare
Hmm.
and
Oh yeah.
give details that they actually really, it would be better if they hadn't
Yep.
shared.
Oh
And then we
yeah.
have other kids who assume that this is somehow a problem. This is somehow something like secret and private, and then they're like afraid to let people know. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, try to open that up and make very clear. It's fine for people to know that your grandparents are moving in with us. You don't need to go into all the specifics of why, but you can just say that we've decided that that's best, and it's just going to take a couple of months to get everybody settled. And it, you can put whatever parameters on it you want, but make sure your kids know how to talk about it in a healthy way with their friends and with other teachers that they have and such. If you have a short-term situation, like a stroke, that all of a sudden somebody's in the hospital and you're having to spend huge amounts of time at the hospital to be patient advocate for your parent, it's also okay to just put homeschooling on pause for a couple of weeks.
Big time.
The world is not going to end, and your kid is not going to miss out on college because you put homeschooling on pause for a couple of weeks. That couple of weeks can also give you the time to think up a new normal if this is then going to be a longer thing. But don't feel like you have to push through and keep things to your normal schedule when there's a sudden dramatic change. And it's also very frightening for teens, although they probably will not admit it because teens don't like to admit fear a lot of times. But it's very frightening if they see you coming unglued. If they see you burning the candle at both ends, if they know that you're not eating and you're not sleeping and you're at the hospital in the middle of the night because there are things going on, and then you're coming home and you're trying to start math with them, they can tell. And if they see you coming unglued, that's scary. So it's a whole lot better to get a little bit behind and then play catch up during a healthier, more resourced season in your life.
Yeah. It's also, I love that you mentioned that, Sabrina. It's also a great opportunity for you to be as vulnerable as you feel comfortable with your kids, knowing who you are and who they are, and just be honest with them about where you are and what your needs are. We're so used to being the provider and
So I don't know if this is frozen for everybody or if we lost Kim for a minute. I think it's that we lost Kim because my broadcast screen looks like we're still going.
Oh, there we go.
We lost you for a minute there. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I kept talking,
sure.
hoping that it was working, but I think it didn't.
It was probably really profound. That's technology
great.
always cuts us off when it's really profound stuff.
Absolutely. Well, I was just thinking that this can also be a time that you can, and certainly you could even do it academically, and switch gears a little bit. Maybe do some life skills kind of a class, and you could say there's some great resources, right? As Sabrina mentioned, with things online. Do a cooking class, and then maybe have your student once or twice a week make dinner for the family, and that's helping do some actual learning, some life skills that are really valuable,
right.
and also contributing to where the family is right now.
Yeah, good. The sad truth is that there's not an easy way to do this. It's going to be hard. And the good news is that we can do hard things, and we can especially do them when we help each other through. So that brings us back to that original thing of community, letting people know what you need, being willing to accept help, being willing to change your expectations for this year, good communication with your teens about what's going on, good communication with your parents about what's going on. And keep reframing and coming back to the fact that your kids are learning such important things. Their character is going to be partially developed in response to seeing you honor your parents as they have needs that maybe nobody was expecting. And as they also see you honestly admitting when you're at the end of your own resources and something's going to have to give for a little while so that you can take care of your needs. It's not easy, but it may end up being really powerful in your teens' education. And sometimes when they're little, we remember that all of life is education. And then sometimes they get to high school and we're thinking transcript, and we forget that all of life is education. But it really is. And this is a situation that if it arises, you need to remind yourself your kids are learning an awful lot during this time. And that's worth something. Kim, I don't know. I think we lost you again. So I'm just going to wrap things up. We would love to hear your stories if you have them, and if you have a different take on things, or some practical strategies to add, please don't hesitate. Leave a comment, and check out Human Development from a Christian Worldview by Vicki Tillman at sevensistershomeschool.com in the ebook store. It really is a great resource for helping our teens learn about all the different stages in a human's life and the things that go along with it. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being our seventh siblings. Thanks for letting us be a little part of your homeschool adventure and journey. And we hope that you will engage on our Facebook group page, because there's a lot of good stuff happening there. So if you don't usually hop into the conversation, do encourage somebody else. Give somebody else a great idea. Ask a question and get some help from some other homeschooling siblings out there. And let's all take care of each other. Have a great week. See you next time.